not serving, Dr. Huxtable, okay?
Okay.
That's the kind of thing that goes on in a restaurant. Now, I'm going to bring him a cup of coffee, just like he brought me a cup of coffee this morning. And that, young man, is what marriage is made of. It is give and take 50-50. And if you don't get it together and drop these macho attitudes, you are never going to have anybody bringing you anything, anywhere, any place, anytime, ever.
The history of the African American woman being undermined and trivialized began in slavery. In many cases, a woman's workload was not too different from their male counterparts. However, as time progressed, slave owners started to see the added value of having an enslaved woman, as they not only produced work, but could also reproduce work through childbirth. In Deborah Gray White's book, Aren't I a Woman?, she brings out the two stereotypes that black women fell under, particularly before the 20th century. Jezebel, a stereotype that justified white men raping and sexually assaulting black women, and the mammy that painted African American women as being content and carrying out a subservient role. It did not take long for history to delegitimize these perceptions. In 1895, Ida B. Wells, African American journalist and woman suffragist, decided to take an account of the unjust lynchings committed against blacks in her article, The Red Record. She revealed to many that, contrary to popular thought, African Americans in most cases were not lynched for breaking the law or being uncivil, but instead to keep the race terrorized. Her voice as a newspaper editor for African Americans helped her become an essential member of the NAACP, established in 1909. Her influence of the movement would help propel the NAACP in fighting to end lynching in the United States. After the turn of the century, the African American woman would continue to alter the fabric of prejudice in the United States. July 1944, an African American woman named Irene Morgan was arrested for violating Virginia segregation laws. When ordered to move to a seat in the back of a bus before it had crossed the state line to Maryland from Virginia, she refused and resisted arrest. She will appeal after being charged guilty in local courts. The following year, after being declared guilty yet again in state appellate courts, she would receive a significant amount of support from the NAACP and Thurgood Marshall. In June 1946, the Supreme Court reversed the decision of the state appellate court and struck down segregation laws imposed on the interstate conveyance vehicles. However, despite Irene Morgan's fight for justice, many states continued to hold segregation laws within their own state lines. This would soon come to a change in 1955, when Rosa Parks was arrested for not relinquishing her seat to a white passenger on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama. Rosa Parks' act of civil disobedience would become a catalyst to the already present bus boycotts and the overall civil rights movement. Though Parks is one of the few African American women credited for their contribution to the movement today, there were many women who also played a part in making the bus boycott a success. Though many black women would fuel the boycott by carpooling and fundraising, they did not only fulfill roles on a volunteer level. Black female leaders such as Ella Baker, the leader of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and Septimia Clark, considered to be the queen mother of civil rights much before the movement gained national attention, broke the mold of female leaders only being the spouses of prominent male leaders in the movement. Pauli Murray, a civil rights and women's activist, will be credited by the Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall for her book, States' Laws on Race and Color. As a result of these efforts and contributions, many civil rights scholars believe that African American women were the backbone of the civil rights movement. Angela Davis would become a powerhouse in activism, being both a member of the controversial Communist Party and the retaliatory Black Panther Party.
Constantly stopped. No, the police didn't know who I was, but I was a black woman. And I had a natural, and they, I suppose, thought that I might be a, quote, militant. And when you live under a situation like that constantly, and then you ask me, you know, whether I approve of violence. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense at all.
Having such a dominant central figure as Angela Davis would inspire future African American women to take charge in society and to stand up for what they believed in. Today, thanks to the added efforts and contributions of the influential black women such as celebrated poet and civil rights activist Maya Angelou and her protege Oprah Winfrey, black women have been inspired to climb the ladder of success in the United States. In the past decade, African American women would make up 2/3 of African Americans in an undergrad program, have a 70% voter turnout, and between the years 2000 and 2008, business owned by black women rose by 19%, generating $29 billion in sales across the nation. However, despite the advancement of African American women, statistics show that over 70% of women are not guaranteed an extra source of financing from a spouse after giving birth. On top of that, the sale of skin whitening cream and other products have increased to $43 million in the year of 2008. Such statistics are only small examples of the difficulty in self-acceptance and struggles that African American women face today. Is our culture and media carrying out the ideals of the great black women that has preceded it, or is it undermining it?